favor a lot against Zerg.
Okay, well, there's the versus screen. Everyone wants to get started very quickly, of course, after that pause in the game number 1. So Violet with a little bit more confidence now. The game has begun. Let's see who's going to break this tie between Violet and Polt.
Yeah. Game has effectively been reset to a best of 3. First one to take 2 map wins will win the series now.
And here we go. There's the crowd. And get those thunder sticks in the air because we're ready to go. It's game number 3.
IPL 5. Welcome to IPL 5, Ohana.
That's right, we're on Ohana. And up here in the top left-hand corner of it, we have our red Zerg player. He is...
Azubu Violet.
Violet with some very vocal fans out there, at the very least. There we go, shout of affirmation there. And he's going up against and trying to break a tie. Who? We see him throwing out a proxy. Rox, that's about to be scouted. It's this guy down at the bottom right. It's our blue Terran player.
That star sense by Violet, super sick. He finds it immediately and Polt immediately abandons his plans. Anything he might have prepared mentally before this game, he's throwing it out of the window right away.
We didn't even have time to introduce him. It is...
TSL Polt.
All right, so Polt was found out right away, and that is not a good situation for him to be in. You know, he can only produce 1 Marine at a time. His barracks is not being built back at home. Early Zerglings can come in and counterattack him. Pretty much everything that could go wrong can now. And it looks like we're building up to another 400 resources. Very good possibility we're going to see Polt eventually wall this off at the front with a supply depot or a barracks and a command center here momentarily.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing for Violet now, he's got strike 1. It's 1-0 morally for him in this game. The important thing for him is now not to overreact. Usually Korean players, they go very extremely in one way. It's the right way to play. You want to be very aggressive or very economical. The kind of in-between way kind of gets you caught in a sea of doubt, and you don't necessarily get everything done that you would like to do in one particular direction. Polt, having had that scouted, he cancelled it right away. Violet should know that Polt will fall back, make an expansion, and probably even go for a 3rd command center. That is what I would be expecting to see out of Polt. And that's at least what happened when I was playing Korean Terrans. Once that proxy got scouted, immediately fall back, triple CC.
And look at this though, Polt, he built his command center on the low ground, and Violet is producing a ton of Zerglings to follow this up. He wants to outright kill this next command center, and it's not going to be done, I don't think, before those Zerglings make their way across the map. He has a good potential to actually stop this and force a complete cancel.
You know, Kevin, what is beautiful about getting all these players here together? Players learn from each other. What did Lenok do yesterday in a ZVT matchup? He made 12 Zerglings, attacked with them, and then just went back to droning. 12 Zerglings can be super annoying, especially if there's no wall off.
And look at this, how close is it to finishing?
Whoa.
It's not quite done, it's just seconds. Oh, it's 100 out of 100. It was literally half a second from finishing. He has to be able to get down there with an SEV. He's trying to send out 2 or 3 of them so we can lift it back off. Violet is stopping him, but it finishes. Polt picks it back up, he's going to land it inside of his main, and he has a full wall.
Whoa, Violet, super sick play by Violet, but gotta hand it to Polt for slipping that SEV by there.
And look how aggressive Violet is still being, and how risky Polt was there. He was putting the reactor on his barracks the whole time. He knew he couldn't make any more units. Had Violet been able to make his way through that supply depot, all hope would have been lost.
Unbelievable play here. Such a good reaction by Violet. Just 12 Zerglings attack, and he knew he would be able to do a lot of damage. And Polt, as you said, making that command center on the low ground, Gotta take some cuts, man, and it was definitely risky, and he paid the price for it. Polt is very far behind right now.
I could see you doing that. To open the game, that's fine, but after you have a proxy 2-Rex that's scouted on you, that takes some cojones.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
As it stands, Polt will try to land his orbital command again on the low ground. He's getting those reactor Hellions, and he's making a starport as well as a tech lab. I cannot help but think that he might want to go for Cloak Banshees. Cloak Banshees has a small chance of a technical victory. If your opponent doesn't have detection and you kill something like 20 drones, we used to see this a lot in TVZ in the olden days. Not so much anymore, but this is something he might want to achieve.
There was an old joke I remember at the Blizzard World Championship, Dongregoo versus MMA, and everyone joked around MMA, make Hellions doesn't work, make Banshees doesn't work, win the game anyway. So and those are the days that we're talking about. And Polt now with these Banshees, you know, he banked up so much gas initially because he had to throw down 4 or 5 emergency structures and canceling all those cost minerals. So he set back a little bit in that regard. Could start Cloak right now if he wants to, but it looks like he is going to save up his gas for the time being.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not so much that he overmined gas as that he just lost a lot of minerals in everything that happened in the early game. So, yeah, the gas, I thought it showed that he was going to go for Cloak, but he decides not to.
And this Overlord is actually going to sit over this for a while. I think the Banshee's going to get done while the Overlord can actually see that. It's actually going to be really, really close. I mean, of course, it's going to be a giveaway. He sees it, and he sees that there's no Cloak being researched.
Yeah, that would be the quickest mass Raven or Battlecruiser player ever.
I don't think Total Biscuit has something to say about that. Spore Crawlers are being produced right now. Violet's going up to a 3rd base. Then this is still a powerful attack. There's a lot of Hellions there. When you keep the Banshee that just sits above the Hellions, adds an additional DPS, draws fire away from Queens and anything else that may be in the air or firing towards the air, it can be still pretty effective. Banshee's going to work on this 3rd hatchery. Already the Queens are in position. It doesn't look like Polt's going to bring the Hellions.
Now what Polt hopes is that all the Queens are being pulled to defend against that Banshee and that he can run the Hellions into the natural. But as we just saw on the minimap, the Hellions are being surrounded by the Zerglings and they're being chased away. They were not able to find purchase into that natural or the main base and are being taken down by this small amount of Zerglings.
I gotta say, there was pretty good control there from Polt to actually kill a lot of Zerglings on the way out, even getting on creep for a second there and still not getting surrounded. They kill some units there. He's putting up a 3rd command center, but things are still a little bit in Violet's favor. He's not taking any economic damage. He's done some pretty good work in setting his opponent back. Of course, Polt is going down the biopath as he always does. But Polt still has his work cut out for him.
Yeah, definitely. He just lost 6 Hellions, so he has a very small standing army, which makes it so that Violet can, once again, cut some corners. He can make a little bit more drones than maybe he normally would, or he can feel a little bit more comfortable just moving out his Queens and leaving his base undefended, because he knows there's nothing that Polt can really send in here that does terrible, terrible damage.
All right, well, Violet with that creep spread. This is the map where it truly makes a huge difference if you can get that creep spread out there. There's wide running paths, so there's a lot of opportunities to flank for Zerg in the late game. If you have it well covered by creep, there's a lot of options that open up for you. Ultralisk can be very powerful on this map later on.
Yeah, definitely, Kevin. And also he has 5 Queens, so he only needs about 3 to 4 Queens to be doing injects at home. So he has 2 dedicated creep spread Queens, which can spread creep faster than if you were just relying on your creep tumor being able to spawn the next creep tumor, because there's a cooldown on that.
Well, the Zergling does block the orbital command for a little while. At least it gets the timing that it's down, and we'll see if Violet does anything with that. Already researching Burrow at this stage of the game, and we see the infestation pit done with pathogen glance on the way. And Violet can be a player who's quite fond of using burrowed infestors to get into your opponent's bases, drop down those very annoying infested Terrans, make sure to kill some economy whenever a Terran player moves out on the map.
Yeah, and it's so fun to play with too, in burrowed infestors. You can do so much mischief with them, and it's only recently that we're really starting to see it come into full effect.
And in this tournament alone, it's already won some people some games. There were a couple of occasions when I saw StarTale Life earlier on in the tournament, was able to plant some infested Terrans, and because they were never answered, even though he never had the stronger army, he did so much economic damage that he starved his opponent out of the game. A few Zerglings making their way in now. They are going to be driven away. A little bit, it looks like it was basically an equitable trade on both sides there, but Violet gets a good read on what his opponent is up to at least.
Yeah, and at this moment, Combat Shield is still only about just over halfway, and 1-1 upgrades is finished for Polt. He doesn't quite have the resources yet to start 2-2. There we go. He just, I think, cancelled something, and is starting his second attack upgrade as well as armor, so he's trying to get those upgrades out. Right now, Violet's creep tumor spread is looking like a veritable plague.
And we mentioned before that you open up a lot of possibilities if it gets out there, and you know, Violet certainly trying to take advantage of that later on. We mentioned before, so some burrow banelings there, but deciding that 3 or 4 Marines at a time isn't enough. He's going to wait for a larger group of those. You know, but we mentioned before that there are times when a Zerg player is rich enough, they haven't been harassed at all, and they can actually put up the Greater Spire and the Ultralisk Cavern at the same time. This may be one of those times, especially now as he catches so many Marines out in the middle of the map. Really nice play there, and even though a couple of Marines survived, he still did a lot of damage with that.
Yeah, I'm surprised the 2 Marines won, but a lot of Marines died. Surprisingly though, the supply isn't too different here between Polt and Violet. Of course, 77 drones out on the map for Violet. He's making his 4th base. In fact, it's finished already. And we've got 64 SCVs from Polt. Polt, of course, he's doing a race against the clock. Greater Spire is about to be started as Hive and Spire are finishing, and Polt will be looking to do an attack before Broodlords could possibly come out. Lest he's going to find himself in the same situation as we saw in Game 2.
Okay, well, Polt, you know, still has to worry about those Baneling Mines out in front of him. That could be a very bad situation if he decides to move out, if he decides he can start to put down pressure. Even if he wants to just take 16 Marines, move out and try and deny some creep spread, which Violet, as we mentioned before, is doing a very effective job of putting on the map. 16 Banelings now on the way. Polt is very well set up on 3 bases right now, but just with the amount of attention that Violet has paid to his mechanics, getting his creep spread out there, making sure his Legend's actually counting up all of the creep tumors. Oh, and he's right on top of the Baneling Mines, but nothing goes off.
That was not the best Baneling landmine usage, but I guess it's not too impactful. It's a very small investment, really. I would like to say that the biggest investment of doing 2 Banelings burrowed landmines is simply the APM and the presence of mind to think about it and do it.
Yeah, I mean, because the minerals, the gas, that's pretty negligible at that stage of the game. It only takes up 1 supply. Oh, no. There's a down supply depot, and the Zerglings just stream on through. And the Banelings are coming right from behind as well, not actually bursting their way through the supply depots. They may wait for Polt's forces to get back and turn around. No, they are not. And Polt is actually able to clean that up surprisingly effectively. Violet swinging around with a few units from around the side. Can Polt actually catch up, or will he lose all of his tanks? Down to just 1 more remaining, and it does fall.
Beautiful move there by Violet. Divide and conquer at its truest form. Taking down those tanks with the Zerglings. Beautiful play there, and he just took out everything from Polt that is really good against infestors.
That's right, and 3 Broodlords are already morphing in at this stage of the game. But look at that, Polt actually picks off a number of infestors. Can he actually catch up and pick off the rest? No, not quite. Looks like those are going to get away, but I think he took out 3 before they were able to make it too far away.
Yeah, a good number of infestors died, and it's not over yet. There we go, 3 more infestors going down. Polt doing a real number on them.
Wow, and I think he's going to grab another couple of them too. He does, another one with almost full energy. So Polt making some very real gains, cleaning out some creep tumors too, and he starts to siege up over at the 4th of his opponent. Violet going to make his way in though. He's got 3 Broodlords already, but this is a pretty early time to reveal those. Polt's not under a ton of danger like he was last time, and he can prepare for them a little bit earlier on. Oh, but does he have what it's take to prepare for these Banelings?
Oh, I just can't wait to see what's going to happen with the Banelings. The SCVs don't move.
Oh no, that is a devastated economy. But in return, Polt does kill a base. I mean, the SCV losses hurt him quite a bit, but on 50 SCVs with 3 mules at a time, a Terran player does still have a decent economy.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And Violet is starting to main out in his main base. Polt is also ready to land his 4th, even though there's a bird Zergling. And Kevin, there's only 1 infestor left. There were roughly like 10 infestors, and 9 of them died.
Yeah, so Polt is still able to kind of sit here and siege up on the map, and that's going to allow his bio units to get closer and closer to those Broodlords in a second, because there's not many fungal growths that can actually lock those down. Looks like he's going to fall back. No, he stems up everything. The Zerglings coming in from behind. The Banelings actually able to get through because the siege tanks were not sieged up, and that doesn't mean, that means that there's not that many units actually left on the ground, and the 1 fungal growth that Violet had available actually hits a magnificent amount of bio units.
Yeah, Violet actually making those fungal look really good, even though he only had 2 of them with 1 infestor. They were very impactful, and Polt lost a very big portion of his army and is now looking to extend the game once again into a longer place. And this game is starting to get really low economy, as both of them are not mining from as many bases as they were setting out to do. Of course, Polt lost a lot of SCVs there, and Violet doesn't have his 4th base up yet, and his mind is all about just mind out.
That's right. So now Polt is starting to move into Vikings. He's producing 2 of those at a time, but he's not committing to any additional starports for the time being, which means these Vikings are going to come very, very slow. But then again, look at what Violet's investing in. His corruptor count is not all that high because he needs to get those infestors back on the field. And if he can't get those, it's going to allow the bio units of Polt to actually get up underneath the Broodlords and engage. So it's kind of an interesting, I don't want to call it a tug of war between these 2 players, but what do they invest in at this stage?
Yeah, and what we usually see in these big fights, oh, nice little drop going on there, killing some drones. He's probably going to be picking this up momentarily. What we usually see in these big fights, initially Zerg kills a lot of forces with banelings, fungal growth, and so forth. But if a small amount of Marines is still left, sizable enough force in itself, they can do some really good damage because they're already upgraded 3-3. And the Broodlords, they have 0 carapace upgrades. So if the Marines can't get under the Broodlords with the absence of any infestors, they can take them down in record time.
Well, looks like it's just almost pure bio now for Polt as he tries with a little bit of a double drop, I guess you could call it, a little bit of an attack over to the restarted 4th on the right-hand side for Violet. Not doing too much damage there, nor is this drop. It is going to get cleaned up. Although the Marines are in a nice position and they are able to take out a lot of Zerglings, no real economic damage going to be done there.
And the Marines are just about to win that, and it's because they're 3-3 and the Lynx are only 2-2, so actually all the Marines died, maybe 1 Zergling won, so it was a very close fight there, and the drop harass is just continuing. Violet isn't mining all that much.
And a nice fungal growth just catches it on the very edge of its range there, but that's going to allow Polt to move up to the right-hand side once again, and he may be able to take out this hatchery. I don't see any units able to react in time.
Beautiful play there by Polt. He's turning around a game in which he was behind so much. He's starting to create parity again here as he's basically abusing the fact that Violet's army is, you've heard it before, Broodlords are kind of slow and immobile.
Yes, they are. And even though he's not doing... If Polt wasn't doing that much damage, and he is doing that much damage because he's killing hatcheries, but even if he wasn't, he's keeping his opponent pinned in, and that's his real goal with this, as he continues to build up those forces. Ghost Academy on the way now, 4 Vikings being produced at a time, Thor's coming up. He wants to be able to get that army out on the map. But add on to that, he's doing real economic damage, and Polt is maxed out.
Yeah, and Polt is playing absolutely on top of his game. Also, it might be a bit of a mistake for Violet not to recognize that this is going to be a kind of a low economy situation. 79 drones out on the field right now for Violet. He made 16 drones just now, but in a situation like this, it often gets to the point where you're both mining with not so much, and you try to get the biggest possible 200 supply army. Polt's army is absolutely huge at this point.
And another cool thing that Polt's been doing too is that through this whole process, he's pushed that creep spread back ever so slowly. Every time he moves out, he gets a couple of units farther forward. He picks off a couple more creep tumors, and now he's established his full side of the map is back there. So 2 ghosts being produced. Cloak, actually the first thing that's coming up for them. Still 4 Vikings at a time. If you can bring up the units tab, how many does he have up right now? 14. That's a pretty sizable number.
14 Vikings already against 8 infestors and 5 corruptors. Potentially the Vikings can beat those corruptors and then start working on the Broodlords. It's going to be essential to do a good spread. And guess what? Polt's army is spanned across the size of bigger than 1 screen. And this is 24-inch screens we're talking about.
Well, add into that, he doesn't have a lot of siege tanks, so it's going to require very high APM here to split all those bioforces up, avoid the fungals, keep those Vikings in the air. He's got set up a nice concave, and now Violet's starting to move out. He decides that now is the time to start doing damage, or at least sieging up this position and causing Polt to react.
And it looks like Violet really didn't want to attack into that position. I was wondering whether he was gonna, and I think it's wise that he's pulling back for now.
Well, he is going to stop this 5th base here on the right-hand side. Polt's going to need to shift some forces over there, but at the same time, Violet getting up his own 5th. Both players are banking up a lot of resources for now, and I think that a couple of Overlords actually got picked off too, as now Violet is supply blocked, but frees that up pretty quickly afterwards.
Polt is moving forward very intelligently. He had that spread, he's moving to the left, and then he stops or hold commands his position so that he keeps that spread, and he doesn't need to do it again. Very smart movement there. We should all learn from this.
But Violet did a very nice job in catching out 3 of those Vikings, picks those off before the fight ever starts. So now he's back down to that 13, now 12 Viking count, as the Corruptors have done some very real damage here. They're baiting Polt onto creep. It looks like he wants to commit and fight this right here. All of those Marines are bunched up quite a bit, and he wasn't able to deal with a lot of those banelings off to the left-hand side. He's got to pull those back and absorb the shots with the Thor, which he successfully does at the end, but not before losing the vast majority of his bioforces, and Polt's army just crumbled.
Yeah, there are 6 Broodlords left and also 7 Infestors, and there's not all that much left for Polt, so that fight went a lot worse, and maybe you were right, Violet, he lured him in there on creep, lured him out of position, and Polt perhaps just a little bit too overeager, stimming into there, and he lost his position. He needed a little bit more patience. He was getting to a 5 versus 5 base situation, and just running in there maybe kind of became the death of him.
Yeah, now Polt still does have 5 base economy, or he will once this command center lands on the right-hand side eventually. And he does have very nice infrastructure setup. You can see that he was producing a lot of forces at one time. But now we have a situation where Violet is still maxed out, and now he's banking a ton of resources. He's on 5 bases himself, and he more cost-effectively traded that time. If he could do it once again, then that may spell curtains there for Polt.
Yeah, and now that Violet is getting up that 5th base, he might be thinking or looking at perhaps adding an Ultralisk Cavern, as his economy situation is starting to get a little bit more certain, and he might be wanting to do one of those, well, basically tech switches.
But now this 5th base is going to be a focal point of some engagement, as Polt is actually dropping in the top left-hand corner, but it looks like Violet's just going to take this opportunity to move across the map. He's still got a lot of Banelings here, and even though Polt may take out that base, the economy over on the right-hand side is going to be devastated. A lot of workers going down. Nothing that Polt can do about that. He's trying to win the war in the air, but he can't do that either. And even though he's taken out a base, his whole army has just been wrecked.
And this might be a last-ditch effort here from Polt, trying to make his last stand here as he's trying to run in and kill as many Broodlords as he can with the Vikings from behind, but there just isn't enough stuff. There are way too many corrupted Broodlords and Infestors, and Polt's army is dwindling, as it looks like Violet will be going for the 2-1 advantage here.
That's right. Polt will still have opportunities, as this is a best of 5, but Violet's army looks so strong right now. He's continuing to just push down the front door, and once he gets into the production facilities of our Terran player, that may just be all for Polt. He's trying to make a stand here at the top of the ramp, and he's only killing Broodlings. He's not touching the rest of the army. He's trying to amass whatever forces he can, but the Corruptor count is still very high. The Infestors are still in great numbers, and the Broodlords, you only need a couple of those to effectively make a big siege push.
Yeah, comically enough, Polt is once again mining from the left and the right side base, but he doesn't have the time. He just doesn't have the time. GG. Polt yields, and Violet will take the 3rd game here.
That's right, so he's up 2-1. Polt only has one more map to try and tie things up, and we'll see if he can do that momentarily or what his pick is going to be. But a very convincing performance there from Violet. He slipped a little bit towards the end of the game there, allowing Polt back into it, allowing Polt to have a saturated 4 bases, gather a maxed army, play the delay game. That may be a testament to Polt's multitasking, though, and getting those drops out there, but Violet's able to clean up very nicely in the end.
Yeah, it certainly looks like Polt's micro and targeting can bring him back from the brink of death, as he nearly did. Gain parity with Violet there, but Violet a little bit overeager with his Infestors there. He started out really well, running his Zerglings into the SCV line, and then running more Zerglings in, killing the rest of the tanks, but then losing 9 of the 10 of his Infestors nearly meant that Polt was able to win that game again. But beautiful start there by Violet, as his Star Sense told him, let's scout for an 11-11 proxy racks. Those 2